So I've had the opportunity in my life to travel to many places, but things changed when we started growing vegetables and then when we grew two miraculous children. And I had to restructure my adventure career. But immediately I saw the light, because where I live, and in many ways here in California, particularly Southern California, we are facing a potential crisis with water and with our rivers. So I started out on this trip ostensibly to understand what this water crisis was all about. You can see that the source of the Colorado River here in the Rockies, where I live, not far from my home on the western slope of Colorado. I would travel all 1,450 miles of the rivers. I swam probably accidentally a half mile of the river, and I walked a couple of rapids. It's an extraordinary river because not only is it a desert river, but that 30 million people depend upon this river system. People from as far away as Los Angeles and Phoenix. More than 3 million acres of farmland depend upon this water system. And still, it manages to drain about 243,000 square miles. That's about a tenth of the lower 48 states' land area. So it's a phenomenal force of nature in many ways, even dammed and diverted and heavily dependent upon. And you'll see this little footnote here on this map about, whoops, we doled out more river than really exists, and that's because of a crucial 1922 Colorado River Compact based on two previous decades of gauge water flow information. And now we know 90 years later that the river doesn't nearly run as high. So we've given away more river than exists. So enough of that. I want to take you on a journey with me down the river from source to sea. I started on the last day of May in 2008. And as a template for the rest of the trip, I always try to surround myself on opportune occasions with experts. This expert climatologist and another conservationist from an institute that's very concerned about water use. It took us most of the day to hike from 7,000 feet to the 10,000-foot Continental Divide to the source of the river using snowshoes and skis. And here you can see, just out of the image, the Continental Divide here, where I started my journey. But you can also see the source of the river itself is contained in those snows, whether they're in Colorado, Utah, or New Mexico. But if you look even more carefully below that snow line, you can make out a sort of surgical scar running across the mountainside there. And that was a ditch 16 miles long, built about 130 years ago to capture nearly a third of the water that otherwise would flow down into the valley. So even before the river reaches its riverbed, it's diverted off to the eastern side of the Rockies. And this happens again and again. Traveling for the first couple of days with a friend and talented photographer in this little 3-pound inflatable raft, we saw one of the more pristine sections of the river in Rocky Mountain National Park, the only place where you can see moose. It was, that craft there would come in to be very valuable, particularly in the Delta, where there is not much water left at all. And I could pack that thing up and walk when I needed to. But if you have the opportunity to get up in a small plane, which I did a great deal, you can follow the river as it's diverted hither and yon. In particular, in the state of Colorado, below that grand ditch, there are 12 diversions that tunnel the Colorado River underneath the Rockies and off to the burgeoning Front Range. And this is the situation that is the potential crisis throughout the river basin as growing cities, populations expand, they need more water, and they begin trying to take it from the Colorado River.